Hey guys, I just want to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about respectfully analyzing current issues and trends, hot topics in our class, also tying into our ethics project. So I just want to kind of just give you an overview because we all have very strong feelings, opinions about certain things, and we just want to dive a little bit deeper into understanding why certain people feel the way they do about certain things, how opinions, research, all types of things affect decisions and how decisions are made, essentially, which are passed off into the school system. So let's just look at, again, how decisions occur and how they come to mind for essentially opinions of people. So this is a general picture that discusses overall culture, so the American culture, so to speak, and us being human beings kind of overseeing, of course, the culture. But within our culture, we have all of these different areas, and this is by no means an extensive list, but certainly when we have a culture, we look at the beliefs of our culture, the social aspects of our culture, the aesthetics, the political, the economic aspects of our culture, and these all reflect what the American culture is, right? I'm just coming to start with the far right, of course, the belief or the religious aspect of culture, right? In America, we do have the freedom of belief and religion. And there's also the mythical culture, which is more common, of course, in the Greek culture. Even the ritual culture, which could be religious or non-religious, or it could even be like family ritual. So all of these things make up what's called our culture. Moving over into the social aspect, what type of customs do we have, holidays and certain celebrations, and why do we do what we do? Why do we wear red, white, and blue on 4th of July? Family life, roles of family, of important people in our country, and of course education is a huge part of that as well right here. Leisure activities and how our culture is formed into sporting activities, and how football is certainly taken over the South. I'm from the North, and I've learned about the football culture down here, but certainly it does take a role into what people do on Friday nights, Saturdays, and Sundays, right? Looking over at economic culture and how that is basically fed through resources, our natural resources. The big topic right now, of course, is the Keystone Pipeline, transporting of oil. Also, our needs and our economics. Certainly, our debt is a huge issue and driving a lot of decisions, a lot of opinions in culture. Scarcity, production, distribution. I mean, again, folks, there are so many things. Technology, big push in our economic culture. Moving down to the political, and again, you could talk a lot about this, especially with the political race going on, but citizenship, how we have revised immigration status, migration status, leadership, the how the Senate operates, and various other things. So political is a huge thing, and of course general aesthetic, right? How things kind of come to be as accepted, and how we view art and dance and music and beautiful things in our world, literature, right? So how are all these things kind of wrapped up into the American culture? Basically, why do we believe and think the way that we do? It's because all of these areas basically sink down and essentially drive our thought process, right? So anyway, just to kind of open your mind with that, and I know that you could probably relate to each one of these areas in your life some way. So I love this picture. I received it from a friend, but I want to look at something called the semiotic iceberg. And the word semiotic actually stems from the analysis, the research of signs and symbols, and essentially diving deeper to what is within. But let's look over here, and this is a picture of you, don't you look nice? Looking off the bow of a ship here, and you look and you see the tip of an iceberg or an issue, something that has come up, and it's like, wow, what do we need to do about this? Well, on the surface of that iceberg, right, or what we call the observational water line, you could probably answer these 5 main questions: who, what, when, where, why. My daughter's in 2nd grade right now, and she's going through all of these, and everything relates back to a who, what, when, where, why. But anyway, you could answer the very basic questions of that hot topic or issue. But what we don't see, and what goes so much deeper, are all of these areas that are under the waterline that really make up the majority of that iceberg or issue. So values, what are your values? Your morals, right? Why do you do what you do? Ideologies, beliefs, social expectation, right? I can even speak from this, that moving down to the South and realizing how nice people are down here, but the yes ma'am, yes sir expectation, right, is just a little bit different than being up north. But dominant power structures, intellectual traditions, public opinions, cultural identity. We talked about this a little bit more on the previous slide, right? Fantasies, generational notions. Why do you do certain things or believe certain things? Well, because my family did it, right? Historical underpinnings, or issue of facts of what has happened or gone on. Cultural myth. I mean, folks, there's just so many things that really stem up what an issue is and why. So I encourage you maybe just to take a moment and to think of something that you feel very strongly about, just anything in general, and see how some of these might fit into the why you do the things you do, or believe the things that you do. So anyway, again, just relating back that anytime someone has an issue or a concern, or brings up a point, don't just dismiss all these other things. And that's really what make up the majority of this view. The last thing I want to show you is just another visual, essentially, of the many influences on reforms. And reforms is basically a response to an issue, and how we can fix something now that we know something is wrong, or we want to improve, or what have you. But from policy to practice, and I really like policy. It's boring to some people, but it's really fascinating, because what happens is when everything kind of puts their stamp on it, or their finger on it, it eventually stems down into the little classroom that you have. And I don't mean little, but I just mean that it's the end result, the small picture, the small thing that relates to the larger stemming influence. So again, this is your classroom down here as a speech language pathologist, secondary science teacher, early childhood. I mean, whatever you are, you are part of this classroom, this school down here. And a lot of things, of course, reflect or are pulled into those decisions. And as you move up, educational unions, associations like the NEA, and various other ATE, all kind of pour in for their reform and what things are needed for schools. School districts have several policies and procedures. One, I work in, of course, the health field, but school wellness policy is huge and has really taken off in the past several years, but has been implemented by the school district, essentially, which has come out of some media reports and research that has been taken to the state government, and essentially has flooded or began at the top to the federal government. So one thing, I just want to give you a visual example, but there's a policy, the school wellness policy, where candy is not generally accepted or able to be given out in schools for rewards anymore. Not all school districts, but some. So that's really affecting the classroom. Moving up, the school district set that policy. Why? Because childhood obesity has been reported to the state government, and Georgia at one time had the second highest childhood obesity rate several years ago. We're better now, but it had the highest rate in the country. And that essentially went to the federal government, that we weren't alone. We had several other issues around, or excuse me, several other states around us had the same issue. But again, not to get political, but Michelle Obama, this has been her major push, school wellness policy, physical activity, essentially. So you see how Michelle Obama moved down into Governor Deal, moved down to a local school district, Carroll County, has now affected your personal classroom. So again, policies, procedures, issues, it's really a bigger problem, and it's not something that should be taken necessarily personal, because there's so many other stakeholders that are really affecting what curriculum you teach, what books you can use, what timelines you can do, all types of things in school.